Hey everyone, David C. Anderson here, coming at you from the Knife Center, and it's our favorite time of the week because we're taking a look at the coolest new knives that have just hit our shelves. So let's check it out. All right, first thing up this week is a surprise. At least it was a surprise to me when they did arrive here at the Knife Center. The Kershaw Leek in MagnaCut blade steel. Very, very cool. What can we say about the Leek? I mean, it is a bona fide classic at this point, been around for a number of years, and it continues to keep on going with a bunch of cool new variations, and this is the latest of it. We've still got the same 3-inch blade with that acute modified Wharncliffe profile, very fine tip. This is, of course, being MagnaCut, a powder metallurgy steel, and as such, the way Kershaw does their Leek variants, the powder metal blades get a flat grind as opposed to the hollow grind on their on the Sandvik models. Now the reason for that is less to do with actual preference, but as I understand it, it's more to do with the actual equipment they have here in the US, because this is a US made knife. Their hollow grinding equipment is basically not cut out for the powder steels, the harder, higher wear resistant, I should say, metals such as MagnaCut right here. But you know what? I happen to like a flat grind anyway. But that's my personal preference. I know some people will argue against me, and that's fine. But the cool thing about MagnaCut on this blade, the reason I think it's especially well suited to this, is the same reason I think the Sandvik 14C28N on the base models is especially suited to this blade, and that's toughness. This is not something you're going to be going out chopping or thrashing to within an inch of its life, beating on, that sort of thing. But the toughness on a very acute tip like this can be a very good thing, much less likely to snap it off in normal use. And MagnaCut, of course, has very good toughness. It also has high marks in the other two pillars of knife steel design, or at least the three total pillars that we tend to think of as the primary attributes that knife people tend to look at. Toughness, edge retention, and stainlessness. It's got all three. Normally, you just get to pick two, and the third one inevitably suffers to one degree or another, but that's not the case with MagnaCut. Price on these, $135 for this black coated version, $130 for the stone-washed blade, and the hardware matches the blade. Not matches, I should say. It's not a stone-washed clip, but it is not a black clip or screws on the stone-washed version, whereas that is the case on the black one. But we still got that nice 3-inch blade. It has very elegant profile, but the black hardware here, and of course the red and black gradient handle, kind of bring it back out of the rarefied airs, so to speak. Still a great knife though. Plenty of handle length there for most folks. About a 3.5 to just barely 4 finger grip for me. But it has a very neutral shape, so if you are hanging off the back, it's not necessarily a problem. 2-position pocket clip tip up or tip down on the right side with a liner lock for security and the extra tip slider lock as well, because this is an assisted opening knife after all. There you go. Flick that flipper tab and it opens reliably every time. Very cool knife. Very cool to see it in MagnaCut as well. And I know, at least when we're filming this, there's also a blue and black gradient version coming. It may or may not be on the site by the time this video posts, but keep an eye out for that as well. Next up from Kershaw, we have got a new version of the Lucha coming in about $168 for this version. And as for the aesthetic you see here, it's the quote-unquote Iron Man version. Red stainless steel handles, kind of bronzed Cerakoted blade. I think it's a Cerakote anyway, but a bronze coated blade in any case. Same Sandvik 14C28N steel as the standard version. Same ball bearing, KVT ball bearing pivots as the standard version, so you have that same free floating nature to the action. Pretty good weight, even though it is stainless steel handles. They keep the weight down a bit by skeletonizing them. It's just another cool new version of the popular Lucha. You know what would look really cool, actually, Thomas? Remember our exclusive tortoiseshell inlaid Flytanium handles?
Yeah, put one of those on.
Those would look really good with this bronze blade, actually. But that would look really cool. Next up, dropped earlier this week, a new version of the LCK from CRKT, a specialer edition than normal. Comes in about $175. You've got a marbled carbon fiber, maybe more of a shred, really. Who cares what you call it, though? It's the same kind of look. For the handle material and the back spacer right here, which is pretty cool. S35 VN steel for the blade, 3.35 inches long, black coated, and a very kind of similar actually to the Leek. You have a very narrow profile. Actually, if we hold it upside down, they're remarkably close. Is this really just a reverse modified Wharncliffe then, Thomas?
I'm going to call it a reverse Leek shape.
A reverse Leek shape, that'll work. Same kind of elegant thing, but again, kind of blacked out for some subtlety as a contrast to kind of the fancier handles right here. Liner lock, and unlike the Leek and unlike other versions of the LCK, this is not an assisted opener. This is a non-spring assisted ball bearing flipper that, as you can see and probably hear from the action right there, works quite well. Further upgrades, we've got a pocket clip with some barrel spacers holding it off the handle as opposed to a simpler bent clip. There's some extra bits of hardware going on there to make that happen. Just about a 4-finger grip for my slightly larger than average hands. Very cool profile. I'm actually not sure whether this is going to be a limited edition or not, but it is certainly a far more special edition than the standard one. Next up, this is actually dropping tomorrow. Today being Thursday, when our new Knives of the Week videos post. This knife is coming out on the immediate Friday after this video. It is the first locking Jack Wolf knives release. Still looks and still bears the hallmarks of their classic slip joint inspirations, but this is a bolster styled frame lock, as you can see. This is the Gunslinger Jack, coming in at about $350. There's several different versions. I think the gold is my favorite. The green is also really good, but we've got a gold. I believe this is a fat carbon. Yep, dark matter fat carbon. You've also got some camo carbon scale options. That's the camo carbon is a US made material. Just the whole knife really does a great job of taking those slip joint inspirations and channeling it into a locking knife. Not just in the pattern, but even the treatment of the back spacer right here. This one is anodized gold to match the pocket clip and the handle material, but it kind of calls to mind the back spring that you'd see on a standard slip joint, which I've got one over here. I can kind of show you that. This is a cool knife too. We'll get to this in a minute. But of course, you've got more security than a standard slip joint because of the locking mechanism right there. You also got more convenience due to the one-hand opening achievable with not only the front flipper, which, surprise, surprise, I actually have no problem using this particular one. Good job, Jack Wolf. But also, the dual long pulls on the blade can act as a thumb opener as well as a reverse flicker. Trust me, it works, which is a pretty nice thing indeed. Other nice thing here, S90V blade steel, tons of edge retention for this class of knife. Coming in about 3¼ inches long, a full height hollow grind, keeping that edge itself nice and thin, a good way up that blade. So excellent slicing characteristics for your daily use. Now, if you'd rather carry this without the pocket clip, they actually include a small color matched blockout plate that you could install in place of the clip. Then you can carry it around in your pockets if you wish, or you could also get one of their pocket slips too. Overall, fit and finish is fantastic, right up there with all their slip joints, which if you've seen any of them, they're definitely a premium product, and what you get in hand, what you feel in hand, I think at least matches up to that very well. Beyond that, gotta talk about, you got the tube with the custom illustration for each model, comes with a pog and a cleaning cloth in there. No pocket slip included on these particular ones, like the slip joints do come with, however, so keep that in mind. Next up, we have a Suprlativ. Several versions of this in right now. This is the Matador. Very large, very impressive knife. Actually coming in about the same price as the Jack Wolf knives we just looked at, or actually a couple bucks less actually. $324 for this. You don't get S90V, but you do get M390. Still a good edge holder, even if S90V might take the crown in that particular matchup. But you have more edge here to work with. Almost 3.8 inches, in fact. Got a fairly high flat grind and a swedge to remove some drag from the spine when you're cutting through materials. Ambidextrous thumb, I wouldn't say disc, but a thumb octagon there right at the top. It's ridged on the underside to help catch your thumb when you go in to use it, or even your middle finger for a reverse flick as well. Works quite nicely. Two-piece titanium handle sides here, essentially. Some of them aren't two-piece titanium. We've got some fat carbon versions, some micarta versions that blend this top. Technically, we could call that an inlay, I guess. So let's do that. We'll call that an inlay over the titanium frame locking portion. Nice floating look to the back spacer is nice. The lockup is quite solid. The action with the ball bearings here, also quite solid. Plenty of handle length there, probably for just about everyone out there. The thumb octagon there actually has a nice feel to it when under thumb in the open position. Gives a little bit of kind of a push ramp style of thing going on. Just super nicely done. Everything about it is very, very well put together indeed. And then last but not least, and this version comes in about $450, which actually not this version, the one I'm about to describe, it's actually not terrible money for the upgrades you get. Certainly not a cheap knife. Again, I'm not making that claim, but zirconium inlays front and back, pivot area zircutai, and pocket clip zircutai. So that's pretty cool indeed. We've also got a knife that until today I didn't realize I'd never actually held one in hand, and that is the Reeve small Inkosi of any blade shape. But we've got the Tanto in at the moment we're filming this, $525 for this knife. For that, you've got a 2.8-inch blade. It is MagnaCut steel here in this case, so toughness, edge retention, and stainless qualities all in one fantastic steel. Stone-washed finish. This is the bead blasted handle, or the blasted handle with black micarta inlays, and it's smaller than the small Sebenza. And I guess in my mind, I always figured they were the same size. But like I said, I've never actually held one of these before today, so that's pretty cool. As for the handle length, really it's about a 3-finger grip for me. I can get the 4th finger on the fob there sticking out the back, but actual handle itself for me is just those 3 fingers. You will notice, however, you've got some fairly prominent finger grooves here. They don't quite work for my larger fingers or larger hands, but smaller hand folks I think would definitely have a much better time with this than I would. Everything feels super solid despite the small size. I mean, it is rock stable right there. So good. You've got the enlarged brass pivot, or the enlarged brass washers carried over from the bigger model, of course, helps with that stability. Folds up nice and neat, nice and small, especially if you take the fob there off the back, and then you got this kind of stout, chisel-y style blade to go with it. There you go, pretty cool. You know, it's always cool to kind of hold something that opens my eyes a little bit. Like I said, hadn't seen that before, so that's cool. So now you guys get to see it too. Next up, keep things rolling here. We have the Toor Knives Egress SAR, or Egress SAR, a chunky rescue or escape style fixed blade, actually. $350 for this, made in the USA. And that is an aggressive but purpose-built blade right here. You have the main edge, of course. You have sort of a, what do you want to call it, Thomas? If we're going by the original Benchmade 940, which kind of coined the term reverse Tanto, this is kind of reverse Tanto-ish in that regard. In use, it's maybe more modified sheep's foot, but we don't have time for that. We don't have time. But the advantage of that blade style here, if you're needing to get under webbing, under straps to cut free to help escape a situation, such as pilots essentially is usually what I think of as an egress knife. Getting under there with this style of blade, you're less likely to puncture the human underneath because of that blade shape. So that's good. You've also got, if you'd rather not do that, a strap cutter or line cutter with this big serration here, the big gut hook. It's not really a gut hook in this case. You've also got the rip style egress saw to help escape from airplane canopies. Originally it was, or at least traditionally what we think of in this style of blade. You've also got a small, not really small, a single large serration here back in the choil area, also for getting in there and affecting certain cuts. Pretty cool. One last thing, of course, we've got tungsten ball bearing there at the pommel for striking and breaking glass there too. everything about that purpose-built. This is definitely not a general use utility style blade. You could certainly use it for general sorts of use, but it's definitely not what it's optimized for. Pretty cool knife though. It also comes with, well, let's talk about the rest of the specs. Almost a 5-inch blade, S35 VN steel, black or OD green G10, or they call this covert green in fact. And you've got that darkened finish on the blade. Not quite a coating, more like an oxidation. Looks pretty cool. And check out the sheath. I like what they did here. It is Kydex, clicks in nicely, and as you can see, they left a pass-through to still access that line or strap cutter, even with the sheath still on, which is kind of nice because it only increases the safety of this tool when you're using it in that kind of fashion, because the edge itself is nice and hidden. The edges of the sheath are nicely polished. One thing you'll have to keep in mind, because of this section here, when you're pulling it from the sheath, make sure to pull straight out. The one thing you don't want to do is kind of start pulling up, or was it pulling down? Yeah, you start pulling down on it, you're going to get caught in there. So just keep that in mind. Other thing to keep in mind is you will need to supply your own belt hardware if you want. Large Tech Lock or Civivi T-clip will work there just fine. Next up is the new, or the serrated version of the new SOCP fixed blade from Benchmade, the 185, apologies. Here it is, 360 bucks, US made, 7.11 inch blade, 3V steel. Nice, tough choice for a knife like this that has some very acute edges and acute tip, of course. And I say edges because this is an actual double-edged dagger here. Some might have this style, but don't come double-edged. This one is double-edged, and a bit over half of the spine side is carrying that edge. Of course, if you want to count each one of these serrations as another edge, it has a lot more edges than that. Or you can get the plain edge version and say it has 2 edges. Plain edge is also available. I believe 2 colors for the handle. We've got black or desert tan G10. Now, the one thing I was worried about when I first saw this knife is, when you're talking with a 7-inch blade that's not a hacker or chopper, you want something like this to have a pretty neutral balance so that it can handle in agile fashion. You don't want to fight the weight of the blade when moving this thing around quickly. And I thought, with a blade or a handle that short with, holes cut out, is that going to make it too blade heavy? And I'm pleased to report it has not. Very well balanced right on the cross guard on this guy right here. So you're not fighting that blade hardly at all, especially if you're doing like a pinch grip style of hold, like, in the classic Fairbairn Sykes style of knifing.
That's a word.
Write it down. But especially in that grip, it is just perfectly neutral in the hand, agile, moves quickly. Not that I am a tactically trained individual, but I can still feel good balance when it's there, and it's definitely there right here. You've also got a exposed tang at the back for some bashing uses should the need arise, is what I meant to say. And the sheath here is quite low profile for a knife of this size. Check that out. Clicks in very nicely. You have this metal retention plate here at the top, hooks in to the underside of the crossguard right there. And the other cool thing about it is ambidextrous sheath. You can place that in there either way, no problemo. As for carrying said knife, you've got a couple of options. One, you have this belt loop right here with an extra retention snap just for added peace of mind, or you can simply remove that and stay with the J-style hook right there. You can carry that inside the waistband or even just clipped outside to your belt, no problems whatsoever. Keep the dagger train rolling here with a new Les George Mid-Tech. This is the Galvo boot knife. 360 bucks. Interesting. Same price as the Benchmade. Same steel as the Benchmade, 3V. Not quite as long though. 4 inches here. Completely double-edged on each side, however. Now there are a few G10 handled versions of this knife, but there's also aluminum. And the way they've finished it here is stunning. It is so nicely done. No stray machining marks, nothing like that. You've got grip, you've got ridges there to keep a solid hold on the blade, but the spaces in between are so finely finished, like it's almost like glass in terms of its fidelity. It's really nicely done. The aluminum versions definitely balance a little more blade or a little more handle heavy, but the feel itself, like I said, is excellent. Not just in terms of the actual ooh shiny look at that, but the feel in the hand is also excellent. Pinch grip also works great thanks to these thumb scallops right there. Sweet. And this is called a boot knife, and in fact it even does come with a sturdy leather sheath with the right hardware. It could be very easily boot carried, but it does come with a single pull the dot strap right here. This can enable inside the waistband carry, probably most effectively in that regard. But these are threaded holes through the many layers of leather. Let's just check. Let's see if a tech lock works, shall we? Hey, that is a tech lock compatible hole pattern right there. So lots of different aftermarket stuff will work if you're not into this strap right here. The strap does come with a pull the dot snap, which is nice, which means it's not going to come loose in any way but the one way that it is made to come loose. A little bit of added peace of mind right there. How about a pocket fixed blade next? We got a bunch of new Creely Makos in. This is just one of them here, and this one comes with Vanax steel, which is pretty cool stuff. We did talk about the three pillars of knife steel attributes, and you get to pick two. This is kind of more of a poster child for that. Vanax, extremely stainless. MagnaCut's also extremely stainless, and we do have some MagnaCut blades on this right here. Extremely stainless, pretty high edge retention, maybe even approaching stuff like M390. A little bit less on the toughness scale, however. And in a way, if you would compare this to another highly stain-resistant steel out there, such as LC200N, which is also virtually stainless, just like this, LC200N will be tougher than your Vanax, but it's not going to hold an edge as long as your Vanax. So it follows the rules, so to speak, in the hierarchy of blade steel design. Now, Vanax, of course, is a bit more expensive. It has to do with the way it's made, the temperatures that need to be maintained to keep as much nitrogen in the matrix of the steel as this knife has, which lends to its stainless properties. Kind of leads to a little bit of added expense in that regard. But long story short, throw this in the belt sheath in your pocket, which is right here, and you're never going to have to worry about this blade rusting or patinaing. Be really extreme scenarios if that were to happen, actually. There is the sheath. It is made of undyed leather, lets it kind of weather naturally as weather your leather as you carry it around, or you could certainly stain it your own color if you wish. And it comes with a nice ulti clip to keep it in place in your pocket so that you can draw the knife without drawing the sheath out of your pocket at the same time. Blade itself, just under 3 inches. This is a toxic green and black layered G10. Feel in the hand, it's pretty darn good. I can get all 4 of my fingers on there pretty well. Also works for more deft grips, more precise stuff. The blade itself is nice and thin. The grind is a full flat. It's going to slice great, just be an awesome everyday carry fix blade. Beyond that, heck, I wouldn't be unhappy with this as a companion knife in the outdoors, like going camping. This would certainly do a great job in that. Be a great little whittling knife for sure. Even a small skinning knife, I'd say. Cover a lot of bases with that particular knife right there. How about a more dedicated skinning knife here? New release from ESEE. They actually unveiled this at the Blade Show a couple weeks ago. The Ashley Game knife has 2 significant upgrades here. The first being S35VN stainless steel as opposed to the 1095 carbon of the standard models. As such, you've got way better stain resistance and better edge retention as well, and still a decent amount of toughness. It's a good, well-rounded steel. You also get to see it uncoated because we don't need the coating here to protect against rust like the 1095, so you got a nice stone-washed finish. It has also gotten the upgraded handle scale treatment here, the 3D contoured milled scales. Orange and black G10 or natural micarta are available, and it definitely gives the knife a more hand-filling grip when you need to use it in a more handful style of grip, but it is still nice and narrow towards the neck like you want it to be for those smaller, more deft cuts. Blade length there is just over 3.5 inches, and it's designed in such a way it's very easy to get your fingertip out there for the skinning purposes, which again, of course, is what this knife is designed for. Also, it's only about 30 bucks more than the 1095 version. It's about 155 here. For that, you get the more complex scales and the more premium steel. So it's really, I think, good value there too. The sheath is Kydex, and it be here, clicks in quite nicely. As for belt attachment, this does come with ESEE's proprietary clip, belt clip specifically, but the other cool thing that ESEE pretty much always does is if you don't like that, their holes are Tech-Lock compatible as well, which even if you don't want to use a Tech-Lock, is just a good standardized unit of measure at this point when it comes to knife accessories. All right, rounding things off here at the end, and I mean just very small selection of the high-end customs we got from Blade Show a week and a half ago, about a week and a half ago at the time, by the time this video goes up.
I don't remember.
And they're all gorgeous. And in some way, there's going to be a few things I can say about all of them that are exactly the same. Gorgeous, fantastic fit and finish, just put together in such a way that you can tell it is a truly premium product. So I'm going to say all of that here right up front so I don't have to say it every time with all of these knives, because it's frankly true of all of them. First, Custom Knife Factory, the Terzuola Eagle Rock. We are happy to have Custom Knife Factory back at the KnifeCenter. They were absent here for a little bit, but we're so happy to have them back. 4 3/8 inch long blade here. A dense twist Damasteel. Very, very clearly a Bob Terzuola design, and not just because it has his name on his signature style pocket clip right there either. I mean, you look at that blade, and if you know knives, you've been around knives enough, that screams Terzuola right there. Compound ground, harpoon tipped drop point. Yeah, that's the drop point. It's got just a little hint that going there. Ambidextrous thumb disc for opening. Damasteel bolster as well. The handle material is red carbon fiber, or red laced carbon fiber. You've got 2 opening methods, not just that ambidextrous thumb disc there. You've also got this very subtle flipper tab, which sends it out quite nicely. You've even got, I just noticed this, Zircuti pivot collar right there. That's sweet, man.
I think he likes it.
Like I said, there's only so many superlatives I can throw at these things to just say just how intensely good they are. They're just good, man. They're just really good.
Pricey.
Pricey, yes. Did I say the price on this one? All right, Thomas, here's the pop quiz. Folks, lock in your votes below. Thomas, let me know what you think. More or less than your truck?
Probably more.
By how much?
500.
A little bit. $1,540 for this knife right here. So is that like 300 more,
No,
250?
$40 more.
Oh, it's $40. Okay, so this is your truck right here in foldable form.
And a tank of gas.
And a tank of gas,
Well,
if you're lucky.
I'll have a tank.
Well, it is kind of an older truck. It might be in foldable form here real soon, depending on how the rust goes. Anyway, don't mean to get you down over there. But it was
I'm very familiar with rust at this point.
It was I had to make the joke, it's fine. How about an Elishewit's custom? The White Swan is the name of this model. This one you could trade your truck in for this and have a little left over. This is only $1,300.
Only, he says.
Look at that blade finish here. What is he calling this? Black Snow. That's really neat. Goes around the spine as well. Yeah, really nice. Well, it's really cool. You've got kind of that spear point styling. S35 steel, and the logo is actually, I believe it is a cast medallion that is embedded into the blade right there. Really, really classy touch. We've got titanium bolsters, a fat carbon handle inlay on each side. I believe these are just titanium liners. They have the look of anode tie. G10 backspacer. Really cool milled clip and really stylish here. And what I appreciate here is this little scoop taken out right there to make it a little more comfortable in hand than a squared off design would be. That's pretty neat. Action, it has it, don't it? Yeah, very, very cool. 3 3/4 inch blade. This is a really sweet design. If you like the handle shape right here, you should check out the Hogue X5, I want to say. Has a similar handle shape to this. Bit of a crazier blade, however. How How about a Peña? Yes, please. Custom Swayback. We've got $9.95 for this, a 2.8-inch blade, hand-rubbed finish, CPM 154, Mexican blanket handles with a natural micarta bolster. Super, super nice. I believe these are titanium liners, thick titanium liners, so you've got a significant amount of lockup going on. Top flipper design, front flipper, if you will, which for me is always the easiest style of front flipper to actuate. I can do the thumb or the index finger, which is super, super nice. And it's a Peña, so it's super, super nice as well. This next one is actually a bit of a treat. An Esnyx Knives Custom. I've only ever really handled the mid-tech Esnyxes, the Esnees before.
Esnyx?
This is the first custom, and I am really impressed. This is the Stingray slip joint. $17.50 for this. It is really sleek. All the lines are so perfectly executed. We've got a vintage rag micarta for the handles right here. It has almost the look of like a dark piece of desert ironwood, which is pretty cool. 3-inch blade, 20 CV, really nicely done hand rubbed finish. Very, acute sheep's foot profile. Really, if anything's gonna be a reverse Tanto though, it would be this, don't you think?
Sure.
Sure, Thomas says, any time of the week. This is kind of like an executive styled, coffin handled slip joint. Walk and talk, so good. You've got a honeycomb matrix or honeycomb pattern on the inside of the liners there. Just everything about this is just super, super well done. I mean, I'm gonna say it again. I said I can't say enough, or I would just be repeating myself talking about the fit and finish, but that's truly where your custom dollar goes with something like this, is that just utterly flawless execution. Just well done. And last but not least, one more slip joint from a company I would say is arguably known for the polar opposite of the slip joint, and that is Heretic. Look at this bad boy right here. This is a custom Jinn. You've got a 3-inch mirror polished L-Max blade. Look at that. $18.50 for this particular knife. .00. Don't try to put that decimal place any other spot in that thing. Wow. We've got a fossilized mammoth inlay. Walk and talk, also quite nice. What I do appreciate here is the opening notch. It's not a specific name for this, really. Actually, you know what it looks like? Kind of looks like those Maori war clubs with like the paddle-shaped thing with like the shark's teeth embedded in the side.
You tell me, man.
That's kind of what it reminds me of. But it gives you a place to actually open that blade without getting your fingerprints on the mirror polished portion.
That's appreciated.
Right? Like, that's actually really good. I really dig that. Man, we have a milled pocket clip right here, serialized as you can see. Hidden lanyard attachment point there. Pocket clip is reversible with blockout plate on the other side, so you can flip that around. I mean, I didn't even realize this was a slip joint the first time I saw it. It's just sweet, man. I don't want to take a risk and put fingerprints on the mirror polish portion. I'll stop while I'm ahead. But man, these are just, like I said, a fraction of the awesome customs we brought back from Blade Show. And we will have a link in the description where you can see everything we brought back and take a look. Bring your wallets though. Sticker shock is about to set in. But in any case, it's awesome stuff. And it's fun to look at, even if it's beyond your price range. I think anyway. Because it's certainly beyond my price range, and I find it fun to look at. But that's all we have for today, folks. Thanks for sticking around. Let me know what you thought in the comments of the knives today, and to get your hands on anything you saw here. Keeping in mind, of course, that some of these customs, well, all of these customs are one-offs and could sell at any time. Check out the links in the description. Those will take you to KnifeCenter.com, and don't forget about our Knife Rewards program, because the best thing about spending money on some knives, especially some high-dollar ones, is getting some free money to spend on your next one. I'm David C. Anderson from the Knife Center. That's Thomas behind the camera, and we're signing off. See you next time.